But yeah, no, we're not talking about good movies or indie films today. We're talking about something that shouldn't have happened. Let's just put it that way. Something that should. I mean, that's the best way to say it.
It's like if your 16-year-old is left home alone, knows like how to take care of themselves, but decides to drink an entire bottle of bleach. It's like that shouldn't have happened.
It shouldn't have happened.
It should not have occurred.
It shouldn't have occurred. Why did that occur? They knew what they were doing, but they fucked up anyway. And that's in essence what the Munsters is.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh, my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I am your host, Brian Condon, joined by my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
Who asked for this movie? Why does this movie exist? Why did Rob Zombie make it? Why did anybody want a Munsters movie in 2022? Is it because they're competing with all the Addams Family stuff that's coming out? Why? Why does this exist? Why does it look so fucking ugly?
I don't know.
Where are we? What's going on?
Well, we're also in person.
Yeah. And we're filming.
This, so like this part might show up on a YouTube or like a social media or some sort of like Instagram reel or some shit like that. But yeah, we are on episode 246. And we are actually at the Eerie Horror Fest.
Yay! 3D!
Yay!
3D!
No, I got to pick that shit up. You can't do that. Yeah, so for our audio-only audience, John just literally threw stickers at a webcam because why not? But yeah, we are at the Eerie Horror Fest, and we just finished up a bunch of really awesome interviews with some really awesome guests that... I know I want to bring him back on the show again for like a full talk, but who do we talk to, John?
Well, let's see. We talked with the Addams Family, and I know what you're thinking.
Not the snappy snap kind.
Yeah, they're not real.
Scary
They're
kind.
not real. Of Hellbender.
John Adams and Toby Poser.
Family of filmmakers do incredible work. Hellbender is on Shudder, and it's also on the other streamings. If you're not cool, if you're not one of the cool kids, and you don't got Shudder, you might be able to check it out on Amazon.
You should get Shudder if you don't.
Definitely worth checking that out. And who else did we speak to?
We talked to Carter Smith and Mark Patton. Carter Smith, the director of the horror film Swallowed, and what was the other one?
The Ruins.
The
was
Ruins,
kind of his
yes,
other
that was
big
kind of his other film.
Yeah.
And Mark Patton, you might know from a little movie called Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
The greatest dance in movie history.
It seriously is.
Dance.
It seriously is the greatest dance, and I would say the most interesting transformations from Freddy Krueger. Like he brought it up even in our live of the scene where Krueger's literally coming out of his stomach, and he has to slice it open and get him out. Like that, the fact he brought it up and was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of known for that," was awesome. But great conversation, and those videos are up on our YouTube. We probably will post those as mini episodes once I get to editing these together. But
Minisodes.
Minisodes. But yeah, no, we're not talking about good movies or indie films today. We're talking about something that shouldn't have happened. Let's just put it that way. Something that should. I mean, that's the best way to say it.
It's like if your 16-year-old is left home alone, knows like how to take care of themselves, but decides to drink an entire bottle of bleach. It's like that shouldn't have happened.
That shouldn't have happened.
It should not have occurred.
It shouldn't have occurred. Why did that occur? They knew what they were doing, but they fucked up anyway. And that's in essence what the Munsters is. It is. It's a fanboy, which I got to tell you this. I respect Rob Zombie for making a movie that he is passionate about. Okay, I get that, but I'm almost watching this. I thought, like, did he not see the same Munsters that I saw? Because I saw something very different when I watched the Munsters than what I saw in this film.
Well, the thing is, the Munsters is such kitsch and camp, and like it does not really seem his style. And I mean, you're allowed to have an eclectic style. You know, if Stanley Kubrick had wanted to make like a boner comedy, that would have been far out. But I wouldn't have expected it.
No,
you know, Animal House, directed by Stanley Kubrick. But yeah, it's just
they shall say toga.
Yeah.
Toga.
Yeah. And we're going to take 5,000 takes.
5,000 takes of the toga scene.
Mr. Belushi cannot stay awake.
How many guitars do you want to smash?
Yeah.
20 million guitars. We need to get the right shear of the take.
Go to the goddamn instrument store. Tell them we need
How many guitars do you need? I need 20,000 guitars for smashing.
But, you know, there was a lot of, I'd say, negative hype going into this movie.
Yes.
And here's the thing. It is not as bad as I think people expected, but that doesn't make it good. I think a lot of people, and I mean, you're allowed to have your opinion, and I'm not telling one how to think, but I think people are saying, like, they're going to say, oh, it was actually kind of good. I think what they're saying is it wasn't as much of a train wreck as I expected it to be. People were expecting Tommy Wiseau, Neil Breen, Birdemic level of garbage, and it's just bad. It's tediously bad.
I agree with that. In that, I saw the trailer too, and I think I even showed it to you, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, man, what the fuck is this? And when watching the trailer, one, Rob Zombie should fire everyone at Universal who actually did the marketing for his movie because they did a fucking terrible job.
See, I wondered if that was purposeful, though.
I don't know about that, but all I know is like the trailer for that movie literally made it look like a B to C grade film, and this isn't a B to C grade film. I don't think it's an A film. It's probably more like a B plus.
Well, when you're saying that, you mean in terms of like the production value, the money, and the people that
this
were
is the
behind
guy.
it.
Like this is the guy who made Devil's Rejects. This is the guy who made House of 1,000 Corpses and the Halloween 1 and 2s. So like he knows how to make a movie. Sort of. He really knows how to make music. And if Rob Zombie listens to my podcast, which I doubt it, please just keep making music, dude. Like I know you want to do the movie thing, but please don't.
Oh, and Rob,
I would never try to be a musician. That's not my thing. I get it. But, you got to know your limitations, and this is a limitation, man.
And Rob, if you are listening, we take it all back. Come on the show and, promote us. We didn't mean any of it.
I mean, I'll ask him straight up. Like, why? Yeah. Just why,
Well, I think, and if anybody who is, as we mentioned at the top of the episode, we are here at the Eerie Horror Fest. There is a lot of background noise. So if you hear other people murmuring or they are sound checking in the back during the episode, if you suddenly hear screams or yelps, it's not like the normal people we have locked up. It's actually them checking out, or testing movie audio in there and everything. Yeah. But Brian, I would ask you, are you an Addams Family or Munsters person, if you have to pick?
I'm a Munsters person.
I said, oh man, I was an Addams Family person, and
I like the Addams Family. Don't get me wrong, but like I've always had a soft spot for the Munsters.
With this film, I was thinking to myself, and you brought it up at the top of the show, like this isn't really made for true Munsters fans.
No,
and the thing is, it's too like weird and kind of creepy for little kids, but the humor is not intelligent enough for adults. So I don't really know who this movie was made for.
It's made for Rob Zombie.
I think so, because the only thing that I can think of, the only reason that there was any demand for this movie is because we have that new Wednesday Addams show on whatever that's streaming on.
It's Netflix.
And Tim Burton is doing the new Addams Family movie. So they're like, well...
No, he's not. No. The Wednesday thing is from Tim Burton.
Well, they're... Okay.
I don't think there's another
movie coming out.
No, it's the series Wednesday.
I think that that the fact that they were pushing new Addams Family stuff, they were the competition. Others like we need to get the Munsters.
I don't think that's the case. I mean, I remember hearing about this Munsters movie for years. That it was something that was kind of in the pipe. That there was going to be a Munsters movie, but yeah, I remember that being the case, but I never thought it would actually come to fruition.
Yeah, but some things like are timeless. Like Cheers in and of itself, like certain episodes might not hold up in terms of like their overall stories or anything, but the whole concept of people gathering around where everyone knows your name, having a drink, and telling stories.
Yeah,
that's kind of timeless. But I feel like the Munsters was just this kitsch 60s thing where it's kind of like, look at us before we really have balls to really kind of parody the Americana dream. This is before like The Simpsons and things like that, 25 years later, where it's like, they're a normal American family, but they're monsters. Whoa,
Yeah, and I think that the whole thing that made the Munsters, the series, really good is that it took these characters that, would be viewed as monsters, and they're the ones who end up looking at humanity, like the normal everyday, suburbanite people that you encounter, and look at them as like, oh, they're so ugly and horrible looking, and they're the real monsters. Like, that's the whole thing about it. And this movie does do a little bit of that, but it waits for, I don't know,
45,
the last 20 minutes to really do it. And I almost feel like if Rob Zombie had taken those last 20 minutes and just said, I'm going to make that the movie, then it would be much better.
This movie has no business being an hour and 49 minutes.
No, it doesn't.
This could have been 80.
This is like almost like back in the day when they did TV specials. Like, this could have been a TV special.
Well, they did like a Munsters Christmas, the Munsters Return, things like that.
Yeah.
But to steal from Jay Bauman from Red Letter Media, he sent out a tweet saying that this whole movie, because the movie looks like barf.
It does look like barf.
Is that it looks like one of those old like root beer commercials you saw around Halloween time in the early 90s.
Yep.
And I thought, like, man, he absolutely nailed it. That's exactly what this looks like. And then
you wait for Elvira to show up, and spoilers, she does in this movie, but not her.
Yeah.
It's Cassandra Peterson.
Oh, is there a difference any longer?
There is a difference. There is a difference.
I see Paul Rubens. I'm like, hey, Pee-wee, how are you? They both went to Groundlings at the same time. But, but that works for a 2-minute advert or a minute and a half advert, but not an hour and 49 fucking minute movie.
No.
And look, this is an origin story, too.
Well, that's the thing is I don't think anyone asked for an origin story on the Munsters. Why do we need to know how Herman Munster was made and met Lily Munster? No one gives a shit. Like, and the thing too that bugged me about this movie so much is that they tried to weave a plot through it. Like, they try to do like this whole thing where Lester's trying to like sell the castle, which would fuck up the Count and leave them homeless and give them the reason to move. And like they do that and it's there, but in between all of that, you have what I describe as Universal Monsters SNL sketches throughout the entire movie. Like this the what was it, the Sonny and Cher moment where Herman Munster's dressed like Zany and Lily's dressed like Cher, and it's supposed to be about the montage of their love, and it's like, this is horrible.
You could tell this movie really, really wanted, and I use the word wanted to be funny.
Yeah,
it's not just given. You can't just put Herman Munster dressed as Sonny and be like, it's funny. Why aren't you laughing?
And here's the thing. I don't want to shit too much on the actors who portrayed Herman and the Count, because I really do think they're trying. Like, they feel like they're trying.
I love how you left Lily out of there.
Yeah, well,
what's his wife's name?
Sherry Moon Zombie.
Yeah, Sherry Moon Zombie. Yeah.
But I here's the thing, because I've seen both of those actors show up on social media, and I get what they're trying to do, and there are moments when I'm watching it and I'm seeing Herman Munster and Grandpa come out, but like, it's not consistent. Like, it weaves in and out. Like, there are moments when you're seeing that Herman Munster like scowl thing that he did that what was the actor?
Fred Gwynn.
Fred Gwynn would do, where he'd be like, well, like that sort of thing. You'd see that, and you'd see the mannerism there, but then it would also morph to something else that's like, this isn't. It looks like a costume. It looks like these people are wearing Munsters costumes rather than actually being the characters. So, but I don't want to shit on them too much. Sherry Moon Zombie, Do you know what
She's
else? Trying.
Yeah. Bless her heart.
Bless her heart. She's trying. She's trying to do her best Lily impression, and it's one of those things like, how do you take a character that when you look at them in the Munsters TV series is middle aged and now make them in their 20s or early 30s.
Yeah. Do you know what else this reminded me of?
Huh.
When you go to like Universal Studios, and like you're standing in the line queue, and I feel like the whole like city area that they go to with the zombie club and all that kind of stuff, like I feel like that's the line that you wait in to get into like a 4D show of what this movie would have been, and you kind of would have been like, well, that was kind of lame, but it's also an amusement park ride, and it was cool when they blew the cold air on us.
I mean, honestly, like knowing the type of aesthetic that Rob Zombie goes for, I'm not surprised. Like this is literally if you were to take a Rob Zombie music video and stretch it across 140 minutes. So like that's what you get. You get the bright greens and purples and shit that doesn't make any sense, and the weird kitsch of having a robot minister. Which I gotta say, I don't completely hate the robot minister.
You know who did the voice of the robot?
Who was the voice of the robot minister?
Butch Patrick, who played the son on the original show.
Of course, but yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it felt very much like I was watching a Rob Zombie music video, but is stretched into a movie. And I guess that's what he wanted. Do I think it went over the top? Yeah. Did it read like the Munsters? No. It read like Rob Zombie.
Well, and this reminds me a lot of the difference between like the Brady Bunch movie and the Beverly Hillbillies movie.
Yeah.
And that, like, the Brady Bunch movie was purposely like, let's drop them in on the 90s and they don't fit in and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Where the Beverly Hillbillies movie like took it like
it was
the
just
same way as the
serious.
show. Yeah, and like this, I felt the same thing for this. I think that they thought they were being like ironic humor, but it was your standard run of the mill, cheap 3-act structure, nonsense, silly stuff, and there was no irony to it. So it's like it was grating.
Yeah.
It was like a pixie stick as a movie. Like, it's okay for a little bit.
A pixie stick snorted it through your nose.
Yeah. It's maybe okay at first, but then...
if you're like, this is cool at first, and then you're just like, oh, God, I can't get the burning to stop. Yeah.
There's another tagline for the movie. I can't get the burning to stop. This didn't need to exist.
This didn't need to exist. I can't get the burning to stop.
Yeah.
Pixie stick stuck in your nose. Yeah. So where do you start with this thing? Do you really want to go into this? So I do want to do this. Let's talk a little bit about, I guess the character of Herman. So the character of Herman is kind of portrayed a little bit differently. Like, we get a little bit of a backstory on how he was created, and he's in essence created.
We needed that.
Yeah, because we really needed that. We really didn't. No one needed that. All you need to know is that it was fucking Frankenstein. Like, that's it. But the whole mythos of this is in essence the same thing. The only difference is that you get a backstory that his brain is a stand-up comedian, and that the way it was switched, the way it was switched is the same sort of thing as almost like Frankenstein, or not Frankenstein, but Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, this is a direct ripoff of Young Frankenstein.
It is. You've got the Igor character, who is in this at least played by one of the actors from the Lost series, right? Yeah. And he makes a mistake of accidentally grabbing, because there's two dead brothers. Okay, one is the smartest person who's ever fucking lived, and the other person is an idiot stand-up comedian who both died on the same day. And Igor grabs the stand-up comedian, who's a moron. And sure enough, the whole play through the entire series, not series, but movie, is that Herman Munster is a hot shit entertainment influencer.
Yeah, sure.
Musician.
Yeah, where did that
He's
come
a musician.
from? Yeah.
And also he does stand-up, and it's like, okay.
That was never
a thing. I don't
show.
think I ever remember hearing Herman Munster say he wanted to be in the entertainment business.
No, granted, adaptations, you're allowed to make adjustments. That's the whole point of, if you don't like how they adjusted the Munsters, you can always watch the original series. Like, that drives me nuts when people get very mad about, like, how people adapt comic books into movies. Like, they weren't faithful to the comic book. Well, go read the comic book then. You still have the comic book, Like,
so you were okay with Jack Napier being the person who killed Batman's parents?
Sure, because that's Tim Burton's thing. I don't mind Penguin being actually a disfigured
boy who lived in the sewer. I never cared.
Yeah.
It always made sense to me.
Yeah. So, like, that doesn't bother me because that's his adaptation. And, if I really wanted something more faithful, I could just read the comics.
Books, yeah.
I mean, look at the 60s Batman TV series. That's, that was completely out there, but I don't think anybody was saying, like, this is Batman. This is canon, and everything else is not.
I also think pop culture was not nearly as crazy back in the 60s when it came to superheroes.
Yeah.
It was more just like taking these things that were comic books and adapting them for some other medium that hadn't really been done before. You had a couple stabs here and there in the 30s and 40s with the Batman series especially, but not really to the extent that you have now. But this isn't a Batman
well, I don't know. I think we're just kind of trying to find a way to make ourselves happy.
To make ourselves happy because we watched
Brian,
the really
you remember
shit
Batman '89?
Yeah.
Do you remember when
I remember
the American Express card? Don't leave home without. Remember that? Oh wait, shit, we're talking about the monsters. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. You had said something about something kind of coming off like a cartoon or something, or maybe I even heard that in my own head. But should this have just been animated? I know that then Rob Zombie probably couldn't have gotten as big of a paycheck for his buddies and his wife. But it feels like a cartoon. This feels like something like it should have been like Scooby-Doo meets the Munsters or something.
Here's my thoughts on it. Don't make it. Here's the thing. Yeah. I get that Rob Zombie's a fan of this, and I get that. And honestly, he can do whatever the fuck he wants, and he did. But if you're going to ask me if it's good, I'm going to say no, it's not. It's not as bad as it could have been. I honestly, like watching it, I was like, well, okay. And that was my mentality, which was like, okay. But I've seen some people who have been like, oh my God, this is really good. It's not, okay? It is what it is. It's
another thing for the poster.
It's a fanboy's fever dream
but is
of
it?
The Munsters. I
mean,
think
if you're
it really
a fanboy, do you really even enjoy this?
Yeah, but I think it's a fanboy who's taken the Munsters and put it through his own lens. And his own lens, and Rob Zombie's own lens, has always been this very rockabilly, chic, kind of extreme colors, like pulling a lot from like the old like EC Comics, horror comics that like Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror. He's pulled from that. That's his thing. And I get that and I respect that.
It's like if Kid Rock ate a box of crayons and then had diarrhea.
Yeah. And I you could also argue to me that say, well, Brian, isn't every filmmaker entitled to take that source material and run it through their own lens? Yeah, you are. But it's not always good. And don't call it the Munsters, because it's not. This is something else. I honestly think that if he didn't use the characters, the Munsters, it probably would play a little bit better.
Well, interesting for me is that, like, and I have a hard time judging this because I grew up, I saw the movies before I saw the show. Like, the Addams Family movies, like, that's a huge departure. Not huge departure, but taken to to 11 compared to the television show or even the New Yorker cartoon and stuff, where it started out from Atlantic or New York or whichever one it was. But I didn't have a problem with that. And
I didn't either. But I think the thing is with both of those, with the Addams Family specifically, is the first movie did really try to stick to the core tenets of the character. Okay. And the core tenets of the characters in the Addams Family had always been very much just that these characters are kooky, and just like with the Munsters, they live in a environment full of people who are normies. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's always been them. Fish out of water stories. That's literally what both the Addams Family and Munsters have in common. Okay, Addams Family, I always felt the characters were more zany than the Munsters a little bit. Like they almost like Gomez is insane, obviously. Yeah. Morticia obviously has killed people. Like I get that vibe from her. And Uncle Fester has schemes that he does. And the children are the children. So
but there's also a woman who has hair down to her feet. Yeah. There's a hand that walks by itself.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the one thing I would at least say about the Munsters is like they at least kind of explain that like they're monsters and they live in the real world, deal with it. Like I don't even know what the Addams Family are supposed to be.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, yeah, I get that. Yeah. But I guess my thing is that when you watch the 91 and 93 sequels, the 93 sequel is a little bit different, but the 91 movie, it's very much still sticking to what was established in the TV show. It doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. It says, okay, remember that TV show where these kooky family lived in this house and they're all crazy? Well, imagine that, but now as a movie. And you still had those sorts of things in there. You still had the characters that we're used to, but they're obviously portrayed in a much larger light. Raul Julia sold the role of Gomez to the point now where you look at the Wednesday series, and a lot of people are pushing back on it, saying that who's playing Gomez?
Don't do this to me, Luis
Guzman.
Yeah.
So Luis Guzman's playing Gomez in the new Wednesday series, and you had people saying, "Well, that's not Gomez Adams." It's like, no, actually, if you look at the comic book and you look at the comic strip, he's very much looking exactly like Gomez looks in the comic strip. The difference is that Raul Julia brought the zaniness and insanity to it, and we now have kind of taken that as say that that's our Gomez. That's what we view as Gomez Adams. Mm-hmm. But getting back to the Munsters, the movie's biggest fault is that it doesn't stick with that original grounding of the series. It tries too hard to give us backstory that we really didn't need. Okay, no one needs to know how the fuck these people got together. What we want to see is that fish out of water story. Okay,
and there's nothing to ground us in this whole thing. Like even like the TV reports and things like that are supposed to be like quote unquote real world. They come off, as very much like cartoons. That's why I said that I felt that this should have been animated. And like I will say this, like if you bought into the premise and you like the world, like in a way that I found it to be grating and terrible, maybe you have a completely different outlook on this. Like I always say that if you went into the movie Jurassic Park and you realized it was about dinosaurs and you went, dinosaurs, stupid. It's like, well, you're going to have a bad time.
You're going to have a bad time,
because you didn't buy into the premise that there are dinosaurs in this amusement park. And it never hooked me. And I just was like waiting for what should have been this 85-minute movie at 119 minutes or 109 minutes or whatever, just to finally end. That and like there's no believability in the characters. Again, I know they're supposed to be over the top, almost borderline cartoon characters, but just it was.
I mean, there were so many bizarre gags in this. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know how many times I saw cutaways and like the weird speed up thing that they used to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? Where they would like ramp the speed up to like 11, and it would make things really unusually looking and like just really weird. And I remember seeing that in this. I'm like, why are they doing it every 5 fucking minutes?
I think sometimes a big part of that is when you don't have any substance or anything of value there, you just throw everything you can. I call it the Moulin Rouge technique. Okay. Like how empty and vacuous and shallow Moulin Rouge is. Like just throw every color and edit you can at them in every costume, and you might forget that what they're watching is trite garbage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would love to see a working print of this with like less lights and color correction. How does it hold up now?
I mean, here's the thing. In terms of world building, I think that they built a world in the Transylvania sequence.
Yeah.
Is it good? No.
Yeah.
But is it detailed? Is it, the world that Rob Zombie wants? Yeah. I mean, you can't say he didn't cheap out on that stuff. He clearly didn't. He clearly invested in it. It's clearly his vision. But I feel his vision is flawed when it comes to trying to represent the Munsters that the people who are actually going to watch the Munsters want to see. I told you this earlier. I felt that the movie that was the Munsters we got in the last 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. When they've moved from Transylvania. And they're now looking for that house. Like that could have been the beginning of the movie.
Did y'all hear that, ladies and gentlemen?
I did hear that.
That wasn't thunder.
That wasn't thunder.
That was a mic check.
That was a mic check.
For a second, I was actually terrified that our mics did that.
Well, yeah. Well, the theater literally is right behind us.
Yeah.
We're not even joking. We're on the balcony section here, and it's right behind us. Yeah. But no, I felt that the minute they were on Mockingbird Lane, and you're introduced to the realtor who's played by Cassandra Peterson, also known as Elvira, and we're seeing them get the house that is notorious in the Munsters. That honestly could have been the beginning of the fucking movie, and then just go from there. Like if he had done that and made it more of taking that TV show and showing the early years of them in that environment of you just moved from Transylvania. And maybe you did have like a cutaway to the beginning, or maybe like there was a teaser, like, you know, we looked at flashbacks, or even just like what happened in you know, Nope, where we see a little teaser right at the beginning before we hit the credits. Like if you had that in that Transylvania sequence, and that was the reason why they left, you know, that would have been fine. But then you spend the rest of the time in the movie doing exactly what the series did, which was showcase these monsters in a suburban environment, and what are the interactions you get when you have these characters together. That's what this movie's missing, and that's why you only get it in the last 20 fucking minutes.
And when I would challenge anybody that enjoyed this, I call this the hocus pocus syndrome.
Shit. Here we go.
If this movie came out July 19th, would you have liked it? I think that we are always so starved for new holiday themed stuff, and Christmas is unique because like a Christmas movie is about Christmas, but a lot of times around this spooky season here, just a horror movie in general can be, you know, oh, Exorcist isn't really a Halloween movie, but it's scary, so let's watch it. This almost has that kind of vibe because I think it does look like those old adverts of like, you know, ooh, spooky Party City clothes available now. So that
Party City clothes available now.
So I think that people want it just like the same thing that they pretend Hocus Pocus is a good movie is because it's something that you watch around Halloween. And I think people were starved for that type of content that they were like, well, it wasn't terrible and it was Halloween-y. I liked it.
I don't hate Hocus Pocus. I know you're like, it's not that great.
I liked it when I was like 8.
I don't hate Hocus Pocus. Did you watch the sequel?
No.
Okay. I saw the sequel, and honestly, it's not half bad. It's not half bad. Compared to other sequels that we've seen, like, I thought I was going to be watching Coming to America 2.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that's what I was going to get, because I'm like, oh, fuck, you're going to drag Bette Midler, you know, and Sarah Jessica Parker. SGP. You're going to drag them into this movie, and, oh, my God, it's going to be basically paint by numbers, just like a Coming to America 2. And it wasn't. It was very much its own thing, and it very much played into the mythos that's established. But getting back to the Munsters here, I just feel that what we got was just Rob Zombie's version of the Munsters, and we got his very Rob Zombie-esque interpretation. I'm surprised that we did not see any what I describe as white trash horror aesthetic in it. Good job.
Herman starts off in a trailer park.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. But no, like, and nothing against people who are in trailer parks. That's fine. But I'm just saying, if you look at Rob Zombie's work.
Right. That's what we're referring to.
That's what I'm referring to. I'm not trashing on anybody. But it's just, I'm surprised that was not there. So I'm guess he's got some range.
I think this is his attempt to show that he does. I think this is like a little bit of a branching off thing, but without
like, see, fuckers, I can actually do other things.
This reminds me of like Tim Burton's Ed Wood, but where like he landed it, like Rob Zombie didn't. And this is like he's Rob Zombie, so I don't think that he had to have more than one draft of the script done. So I think they went with like a first draft, and they just jumped into it.
See, here's the thing, man. I actually think that he probably had multiple drafts, but again, when you're Rob Zombie, everything is through that lens. Yeah. So that's what I'm getting across, is that it doesn't matter if you had draft 1 or draft 50. It's Rob Zombie looking at the draft. You know, it's like almost having like a blind projectionist. You know, the projectionist is going to be like, well, I'm a projectionist. Oh, okay. How is is the thing in focus? Yeah, sure. Okay, how many fingers am I holding up?
38?
38? You know, like that's what I'm getting across, is that when your vision is very much set and you're not willing to ask yourself the question, does this actually support the characters that my audience are coming to watch? If Rob Zombie wanted to make this bizarro, goofy Transylvania world with these bizarro, goofy Transylvania family and bizarro, goofy characters, don't call them the fucking Munsters.
I got a title for it. Hotel Transylvania.
There you go.
Shit.
But don't call them that. Yeah. Call them something else. The minute that you attach yourself to a property like that, you are now attaching yourself to the expectation that fans are going to go into. Okay? I went into it thinking, well, one, I saw the trailer, so I was thinking really low. I was like, okay, how bad is this train wreck going to be? But I just really think that if you're going to call it the Munsters, make it the fucking Munsters. Not the last 20 minutes, the fucking Munsters. Because the previous 120 was not.
This movie reminds me so much of that Power Rangers movie we got a couple of years ago. It's like, it doesn't know who its audience, it doesn't know what audience it wants to have. Excuse me. And then you really only get the Power Rangers for the last 10 minutes of the movie. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, it did feel very much like that. Now, what did you think of? We got to talk about it. What did you think of Sherry Moon Zombie's performance in this? Because everyone always shits on her, and we always just like,
for an over-the-top performance that she could copy, which I think she did, but then putting her own twist on it, I don't really think she did that terribly. Because the same thing I put with the guy who was in all his movies that played Herman. I thought he did a pretty good job of copying Fred Gwynn, but there's no copying Fred Gwynn. I mean, you had John Lithgow in the New Pet Cemetery movie.
Yeah.
And if Lithgow can't match Gwynn, nobody can match Gwynn. So I think she was fine, but everybody was just fine.
Yeah, I thought you had a lot of one-dimensional characters. I saw her Lily as trying. And that's really what I got to say is she's trying. Mm-hmm. Okay. And she's doing her best Lily Munster impression, Yvonne DiCarlo. But in terms of the character, in terms of the performance, it's all one-dimensional. You get this whole thing that, she's just looking for true love and a husband. It's like, okay, great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, no, there's no substance to anybody. This is a bowl of sugary cereal.
Yeah.
There's no character arcs, there's no substance, there's no layers to anybody. And I don't, that's why I again thought it would be better as a cartoon, because I don't think Rob Zombie.
There's also no consequences.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? Like, there's a scene, and I don't care if I'm going to spoil this fucking movie, but anyway, there's a scene where you basically find out that Herman Munster is responsible for everything wrong with how they got out of Transylvania. So basically, Herman Munster signs the deed away to the Count's house because he's a fucking idiot. Mm-hmm. And
he did not come off as an idiot in the show. Like, he is
he's
so
not an idiot. He's not an idiot
movie.
in the show, but they made him a fucking idiot in this movie. But yeah, they bring him off as this bumbling fucking moron who signs away the deed to the house. Which, by the way, I don't care who you are. If you get married into a family, that doesn't automatically give you the right to sell an ancestral home. Yeah. Like, it doesn't work that way. I don't know how it works in Transylvania
he didn't
law.
Get thrown on the deed.
No,
of the house.
he didn't.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make any sense. Like, he suddenly must be part of the family and have the ability.
He has power of attorney.
He has power of attorney. It's like I don't think that's how it works. Pretty sure the Count would have to give that. But the point is that Herman does this. And in a normal movie, okay, you would have in screenwriting basically like The Fall, where everything goes wrong for the main character, which then sets up the ending act of redemption, right?
Yeah.
So you have that occur, and there's no fucking consequences from it. The consequence isn't that Lily says, "I'm done with you, you're a moron," and now Herman has to win her back. That would make a much more interesting movie, wouldn't it, John?
Yeah.
But instead what we get is, we're going to America because I'm going to become famous at Hollywood. Not Los Angeles, Hollywood.
Yeah. Brian, is there anything good about this? Like,
I mentioned this before. I do like the set design for Transylvania, but at the same time, it's good if it was not a movie called The Munsters.
Yeah,
if it was something else.
I struggle to think of that, because I'm sure there are some people that love the art direction and the set design and costumes and all that. To me, it just looked like, as I mentioned, looked like barf.
I think I described it to you in text as if you were to take the Munsters and put it into a rockabilly blender.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of it. If you know what rockabilly is, you know exactly what I'm fucking talking about. But yeah, I mean, in terms of what was good, as I said, I thought the actors tried. They're trying. I can't say that anyone phoned the fucking thing in. Everybody tried. Even Cassandra Peterson, who shows up right at the end. You could see that she's absolutely like bought into it, and she's doing this. But it's just not a good movie. I don't care how you want to put lipstick on the pig here. It's not good. It's not the Munsters. I can tell you that right.
Well, I mean, like which pig though? Like if it's Babe, that's gonna be sexy as fuck.
Is that what you want to do? You want to do some nasty stuff with Babe the
Babe
pig,
too,
huh?
Pig inside me.
Ew,
in the side of me.
Gross. So there's nothing, John, that you could find that's redeeming on this movie.
I will say this: it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Right,
and look, as I mentioned, and I will repeat it, this wasn't to my taste. That doesn't mean that. There's a big difference between critiquing like mistakes that somebody makes in a performance or in a script or in pacing or something like that. But just saying my opinion is I did not like how it looked. I did not like the joke. That's more opinion than it is true critique. Yeah. So I could say like if you have the opposite taste of me, then you'd be like, well, you're full of pole hockey. This was a good movie, and it wasn't to my taste. And I checked my phone I think like 39 times. Just waiting for this.
So like the way I watch this is my daughter saw it on Netflix and was like, we need to watch that.
How did a toddler take it? Did she like?
She watched her iPad the whole time.
Sounds about right.
This goes to show you. She was like, that's not scary, and now watching her iPad. So no, but like she put it on, and I'm like, oh god, I guess I have to review this fucking movie now. So, and I mean, I was thinking about doing it anyway. It was either this or like the new Hellraiser, and I'm like, I probably should have done the new Hellraiser. But basically, she wasn't really into it. I kept watching it. My wife came home and saw we were watching it. And she's like, "This looks terrible," and I'm like, "It absolutely is." And that was pretty much it. And then I finished it up before we came here to Eerie, and yeah, I mean, watching it, it was that was honestly it. It's I guess it's there. I mean, again, I've seen a lot of people that I'm friends with who've said they really like it and they got a lot. That's great. I'm glad you did. But you can't come back to me and tell me this is a fucking Munsters because it's not.
And you can't honestly tell me this is a good movie because you could have liked it, but it's not a good movie.
Yeah,
because there are plenty of movies that I like that are not good movies.
And here's the thing: like Hocus Pocus, say what you will, John. Okay, that movie has retained its popularity since 1993. Okay, since 1993, even though it is not the greatest Halloween movie at all, it has staying power. It's stuck around. People are into it. You could say it's nostalgia goggles, whatever. There is no way in fucking hell that Rob Zombie's The Munsters is going to have that staying power.
Do you think it's even going to last past this year?
No, I don't. A couple reasons why. One, media churn of horror and Halloween movies is so rapid now that it's not like you get one Halloween movie a year now. It's more like you get 50. Yeah. And then you get another one in another couple months because we got to get those movies out now so that they come out on streaming right in time for Halloween. So no, I don't think this will last in people's memory. It'll be like, oh, you know what? There was that Munsters movie that was made.
You know what this reminds me in a different way? The Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Remember how excited people were for that movie?
I didn't see that one. I didn't get a chance to see it. Lauren saw it.
But everybody, like, they read that book growing up. Yeah. And they're all excited for that movie, and now no one fucking remembers.
Yeah.
It had its 15 minutes and it's over. Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right about this movie.
I just think it's a Walmart bargain bin.
Oh yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. It's a Walmart bargain bin. Enjoy it now. That's great. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're a bunch of fucking assholes. I mean, we probably are. But I'm just saying.
Well, we're 30-something neckbeards. Like, maybe people who saw this when they're 8 years old, they'll be doing podcasts when they're 30-something neckbeards being like, oh, I love that movie when I was a kid.
They could, and that's
people
great.
That love Batman forever. But then I'm like, oh, but they were 10 years younger than me. Well, if they were 10 years younger than me, they wouldn't be alive. But, they saw it when they were 5.
Yes. And that's the case. And that's very true. It maybe is that. Or maybe it was just made because, Rob Zombie wanted to do something that was not. This is a PG movie. So it was not like gratuitous blood and gore and shit and that sort of things.
That would have been
so I'd watch that movie. But no, I think he made this because he wanted to make something that harkened back to his childhood and his fandom. I don't think he's the right director to handle this sort of subject matter. And if you want to do this sort of movie, which, again, Rob, talking to you right now. You want to come on the show? You can come on here.
But we just made all that up. You're the greatest.
No, but seriously, you absolutely have a artistic vision that no other filmmaker has. But I got to point out this. The minute you call it the fucking Munsters, there is expectation that is put on there. And you could say, well, I'm going to subvert that expectation. Well, okay, don't be surprised when fucking assholes like us come back around and say, it's not the fucking Munsters, because it's not the fucking Munsters. What the Munsters is the TV show. If you want to actually see what the Munsters were, watch it. I think it's on Peacock. Yeah. It's Peacock's Universal. Yeah. And shame on Universal for fucking up the marketing on this thing. Shame on it, because it was not nearly as bad as I thought the trailer made it to be.
That's for the poster. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a couple. There's a couple there. We should get shirts.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. How is the movie? It'll say, how is the movie? Yeah. And the back will say, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But final thoughts on the Munsters, John?
See, I and you might do some research and you might prove me wrong, but I really do feel that this was, Rob Zombie given carte blanche. I think he wrote one pass on a script, and I think he and his buddies just went into production, and no one stopped. They were so preoccupied if they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Oh, fucking hell. Don't you Goldblum me on the podcast.
Nobody looked around and said, hey, maybe we should adjust the lighting, or maybe we should amp up the jokes a little bit, or maybe we should pull back.
Well, no, the jokes were amped up too much. That's the thing.
I guess when I say amp, I meant quality or pull back. Yeah. But I don't think that anybody stopped and took a look. It reminds me of the George Lucas prequel movies, because he was George Lucas at that point that nobody said, hey, George, that kind of sucks, or hey, George, that doesn't make any sense.
Do we really need to have 40 minutes of political dialogue happening? Do people who want Star Wars really want that? No.
So
I do.
I think it was the wrong man for the movie, but they gave it to him, and then he didn't stop and reevaluate anything. He just went, and then before he even knew what he had, they packaged it and they slapped it on a lunchbox.
You fucking asshole.
So that's just my take.
Were you holding on to that for the whole time?
I just realized I was like, I got another Goldblum. You
can go full Goldblum on it. Yeah.
Pop another bloom.
My final thoughts are just the same sort of thing as I mentioned before. I really think that if this was called something else other than the Munsters, it absolutely would be fine, because it's Rob Zombie. But because it's called the Munsters, we have an expectation. We want to see that fish out of water. How are these monsters reacting with people? And you could say, well, it's been done to death. But yeah, there's a reason why it still sticks with people. Because it was good. Because it was solid. Because it worked. Because it resonated with people. Don't tell me that this Transylvania nightmare that we got, because that's literally what it is going to resonate with anyone other than Rob Zombie. That's it. That's all it is.
There's another poster. That's it. That's all it is.
That's all there is. I got a million of them. And right here at Eerie Horror Fest, you can come by and you can talk to me, and I'll give you some of them.
Yes.
But John, where can they find you at on the internet?
Oh, all them places. The Gram, the book, the Twit. You can find me on YouTube. Or J-Dubs Video Nasties.
You got a new video up.
Yeah, I got the one. I finally got the Willy Wonka
I watched it, and I cracked the fuck up.
Okay. The ending wasn't a little too much for you?
Remind me of the ending.
with the Challenger?
Oh, that. Yeah, I know. I saw that, and I'm just like, why did he go there? But I mean, honestly, there's no other image you could splice into it. You got to check out. You got to check it out. I mean, honestly, it's in total poor taste. Yeah. But it's 100% genuine John Woolscroft right there.
But okay, I will say this though: it took me a long time, getting a lot of stuff sorted out. But spooky season, I will not be sitting on things forever. Sixth Sense, so many questions. Sixth Sense is coming up.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because I just don't understand how there are billions of ghosts walking around and bumping into shit, and the fact that they can throw rocks through windows. Like, why aren't dead people just destroying our entire world all the time? But
because we're all at their whim.
Yeah,
we just have to appease them. If we appease them, they won't kill us in our sleep.
Yeah.
But awesome. Yeah, check that out. You can find me at Brian Connington. I also run the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us and follow us wherever you listen to audio. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Psycho Show. If you have a question or you want to talk to us directly, or if you're Rob Zombie and you want to get in touch with us and tell us how you hate us and are coming for us, you're going to send your band of ghouls to us, that's okay. You can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. And again, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will see you next time.
Team Addams Family, bitch.